All right, welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today we're taking a look at, well, I guess a weapon's the right word for it, but one that's been around forever and is honestly still super relevant today.
Yeah, you got it.
We're talking about the staff.
Absolutely, the staff.
So, our awesome listeners sent us some excerpts from this book called Mastering the Staff, written by Dr. Ted Gambordella.
Oh, nice.
And the goal today is to really break it down, make sure everyone listening walks away with a solid grasp of the core ideas and techniques, all without overloading anyone.
Yeah, I think that's key. Efficiency is everything when you're trying to learn something new, especially when it comes to like martial arts and weapons.
For sure.
So if you're out there and you're like, man, I want to understand the staff, this deep dive into Dr. Gambordella's work is the perfect place to start.
Totally. And to kick things off, I think it's helpful to know a little bit about the guy behind the book, right?
Absolutely. Context is always helpful.
So Dr. Gambardella, he's not just some armchair martial artist, making stuff up. He's actually got over 14 years of experience in various martial arts.
Wow, so he knows his stuff.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact. He wrote Mastering the Staff after spending, get this, 4 years researching and training with the staff specifically.
4 years? That's dedication.
Right. It's because apparently he just couldn't find any really good resources on weapons training. He saw a gap and decided to fill it himself.
That's so cool. So he was kind of like, all right, fine, I'll do it myself.
Exactly. And it wasn't even his first time writing. The guy had already written other books and even a movie script.
Oh, a true Renaissance man.
And on top of all that, he holds a 4th-degree black belt in Kubajutsu.
Impressive.
And his specialty within Kubajutsu, weapons.
Of course. It all makes sense now.
So yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
It sounds like he's not just like a practitioner, but a real scholar of the martial arts,
Definitely. Okay, so enough about the author. Let's talk about the staff itself.
Yeah, let's get down to the weapon itself.
All right, so whether you call it a baton, a jo, a nightstick, or just a plain old bat.
Lots of names for a simple tool.
Totally. It's basically just a length of wood, right? But the reason you see it used by police forces all over the world is because it's so darn effective.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like an extension of your arm. You instantly have more reach.
Exactly. And think about all the things you can do with it. Strike, block, jab, control distance. You can even throw the darn thing.
Yeah, it's super versatile.
And practically speaking, it's easy to get your hands on a staff, and it's not like a complicated weapon to maintain, Doesn't need oiling or sharpening or anything like that.
Low maintenance, high impact.
Exactly. Okay, now before we get too deep into the techniques, there's this really important point that Dr. Gambardella makes about safety.
Right. Safety first.
Always.
Yeah.
So because a staff is, a solid piece of wood, and a lot of the strikes target pretty vulnerable areas.
Yeah, you can do some serious damage.
Right. So he strongly recommends starting your practice with something that's not going to put you in the hospital, like a rubber stick or maybe even a hollow tube.
Smart move.
Yeah. The idea is to get a feel for the weapon first, learn to control it, build up that muscle memory before you go swinging around a piece of oak,
Yeah, totally. It's like you don't start driving a race car before you've learned to drive a regular car.
Exactly. Okay, so for our deep dive today, we're going to cover all the essential stuff that Dr. Gambardella lays out in his book.
Let's get into it.
We'll talk about how to hold the staff properly, the fundamental blocking positions everyone should know, the key areas to strike, some techniques that'll give you serious power and reach.
Sounds good.
Then we'll get into using the staff against someone who's unarmed, some tactics for if your opponent also has a staff, specifically a boost staff.
Oh, interesting. So staff versus staff.
Yeah. Then we'll cover how to defend yourself if someone attacks you with a staff, even using kicks to block. And we'll touch on the idea of kata, which are these preset sequences of movements.
Okay. I'm ready when you are.
All right. Let's start with something super basic, but super important. How to hold the staff the right way.
Seems like a good place to start.
So the first thing that might surprise you is that you don't actually hold the staff right in the middle.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dr. Gambordella explains that you want to have more of the staff extending from one end than the other.
Okay, so it's not balanced.
Nope, not at all. He suggests holding about 12 inches of the staff, which would leave the other end, around 2 feet or so sticking out.
So it's more like a lever then.
Exactly. And that off-center grip is what gives you the power and control you need to really use the staff effectively. Think of it like a seesaw, Where you put the pivot point changes how much force you can generate.
Right, makes sense.
Now, In the book, he shows two main ways to grip the staff.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first one is pretty straightforward. You wrap all four fingers around the staff and your thumb just rests on top. This is the grip you'd usually use when you're holding the staff out in front of you, ready to move it around.
Gotcha.
The second grip is similar, with your four fingers wrapped around, but this time your thumb also wraps around the staff, making it a really secure grip.
Ah, so more locked-in grip.
Yep. This one's used a lot when you're holding the staff off to the side or behind you, especially when you're going to strike or block.
I see. So the thumb wrap adds stability and power.
Exactly. And Dr. Gambordella really emphasizes that when you're holding the staff behind you for striking or blocking, that closed thumb-wrapped grip is key. It gives you the most security and power.
Makes sense. It's like you don't want the staff flying out of your hand when you make contact.
Totally, totally. Okay, let's move on to blocking.
Yeah.
This is like the foundation of any good defense, right?
Yeah, got to be able to protect yourself.
For sure. So Dr. Gambardella goes through a bunch of different two-handed blocking positions.
I lay them on me.
First up, we've got the groin block. Sometimes it's called the X block because of how your arms cross.
Okay, I can picture that.
You basically snap the staff down in front of your groin, arms crossed, to protect that, well, sensitive area.
Yeah, essential protection.
Then there's the open groin block, which does the same thing, protecting the groin, but without crossing your arms.
I'm guessing each variation has its advantages and disadvantages.
Definitely. Maybe the crossed arms of the X block give you a bit more strength, while the open groin block lets you move more freely, you know?
Makes sense.
Then we have the two-handed side block. This is where you snap the staff across your body to block something coming at your chest.
Like a big shield.
Exactly. And then there's the high block, or rising block. This one's all about protecting your head, so you snap the staff upwards with both hands to block anything coming down at you.
So those two are like your basic head and body protection.
Yep, pretty much. Then we've got the groin striking block, which is a bit different. It's like a swinging motion down in front of your groin.
So not just a block, but also a potential attack.
Right. It's like a block with a little extra oomph.
I like it.
Next up is the front rising block. For this one, you snap the staff upwards with just one arm, keeping the staff along your forearm to block anything coming straight at you.
Interesting. So a one-armed block for more specific situations.
Yeah, maybe if your other hand is busy doing something else or you need a really quick, focused block.
Makes sense.
Okay, and there are a few more two-handed blocks. We've got the swinging low block, which is for defending against leg kicks. You basically swing the staff down across your leg to intercept the kick.
So it's almost like you're sweeping the kick away with the staff.
Exactly. Then there's the middle striking block. This one's for protecting your stomach area. You snap the staff horizontally in front of your chest.
Another one that could double as an attack, maybe?
Yeah, I could see that. Then we have the striking rising block. This is a combo move where you snap the staff upwards and forwards so it can block both kicks and punches coming at you.
Clever.
And last but not least, we've got the striking groin block. This one's a quick snap across the front of your body, low down, to protect the, well, you know.
Right, a groin. Got to keep that safe.
Exactly. It's amazing how many different two-handed blocks there are, right?
It really shows you how versatile the staff can be, you know, defending against high attacks, low attacks, side attacks, pretty much anything.
Totally. Now, Dr. Gambardella also covers some one-handed blocks, which are great for when you need a little more mobility.
Yeah, I can imagine situations where having a free hand would be really helpful.
For sure. So for the one-handed rising block, you snap your arm up to protect your face with the staff running along the outside of your forearm.
So kind of like a modified upper block in boxing, but with the staff.
Exactly. Then we've got the middle block. This one's a swing across your body with one hand to deflect a punch.
Simple but effective.
And lastly, we have the one-handed side block. You swing the staff downwards to strike the attacker's kicking leg, which hopefully disrupts their balance and stops the attack.
So a disruptive block.
Yep, and to make all of this even clearer, the book has these really helpful illustrations, you know.
Visual aids are the best.
Absolutely. We see the two-handed rising block in action, a one-handed middle block deflecting a punch, the double groin block, a two-handed side block, a one-handed side block actually hitting the attacker's leg, and another one-handed middle block against a punch. Seeing those pictures really helps you understand how your body and the staff should be positioned.
Absolutely. I always find those visuals super helpful. You know, it's one thing to read the description of a move, but actually seeing it, even in a still image, can make a huge difference.
I totally agree. Okay, so we've covered holding and blocking. Now let's talk about actually hitting something.
All right, the fun part.
So when it comes to striking with the staff, Dr. Gambardella lays out some key target areas.
Makes sense. Not all targets are created equal.
Right. When you're using the end of the staff, the two main targets are the throat and the eye.
Yeah, those are definitely vulnerable spots.
And hitting either of those can pretty much end a fight right there.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I imagine those require a lot of precision, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not just flailing around with the staff. You need to be accurate.
Right. Got to be able to control that endpoint.
Definitely. Now, when you're using the side of the staff, you've got a lot more options, but they're still aimed at causing some serious damage.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
Well, you've got the face, obviously.
Somebody wants a staff to the face.
Then there's the collarbone, the back of the neck or spine, the ribs, specifically those floating ribs, and upward smash into the groin.
Ouch.
Right. Then there's the kneecap between the eyes, which again requires some serious accuracy.
Yeah, you don't want to miss with that one.
And then, believe it or not, the throat shows up again as a target for the side of the staff.
So the throat is a prime target no matter how you're using the staff.
It seems to be a recurring theme, yeah. And it's not just about swinging the staff with your arms. You've got to use your whole body.
Right, like with any striking art.
Exactly. Dr. Gambordella really emphasizes the importance of hip movement when you're striking forward with the staff.
It's all about that power generation, right?
Yep. He even compares it to how you generate power when you punch. You're not just using your arm, you're rotating your hips to transfer that force through your body.
Makes sense. Your hips are like the engine of the movement.
Totally. The book also talks about flipping the staff sideways for a front strike. Again, it's all about that hip rotation.
So you're basically swinging the staff across your body using your hips to drive the movement.
Exactly. And there's this little detail he mentions, a wrist flip, that you use to bring the staff around to the front during that swing.
So a little extra snap and reach.
Yep, it's subtle, but it makes a difference. The book also shows how to thrust the staff forward from both a front and side view, and there's a quick jabbing motion too.
So those are your more direct attacks.
Yep, those are good for keeping your distance or hitting a specific point with a lot of force.
Like a spear, almost.
Totally. Now here's where things get really interesting. What do you do if your opponent blocks your attack?
Ah, the counter game.
Right. So Dr. Gambardella gives a couple of really cool examples of how to use wrist movements to get past a block.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So you go for an overhead strike, but your opponent manages to block it with a rising block.
So their staff is up above their head, stopping your attack.
Exactly. So to counter that, you just do a quick upward flip of your wrist, and that little adjustment makes their block come up short, so your staff sails right over and connects with their head.
Wow, that's slick.
And the book has these close-ups that really show how that wrist movement gives you that extra bit of reach you need to get past their defense.
So it's like you're adding a little flick at the end of your swing.
Yep, exactly. And then there's another example where you're going for a side head strike, and your opponent blocks it with their forearm.
So they're basically covering their head with their arm.
Right. To get around that, you flip your wrist outwards and extend your arm just a bit.
Like you're reaching around their block.
Exactly. And again, that little wrist movement is all it takes to bypass their defense and land your strike.
That's so cool. It's like a little cheat code.
I know, right? And again, the book points out how that wrist extension gives you the extra distance you need to make contact.
It's amazing how much power those small wrist movements can generate,
Totally. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about how to use the staff against someone who's unarmed.
A classic self-defense scenario.
So Dr. Gambardella goes through 8 different techniques, each with a specific series of movements.
All right, let's break them down.
Technique 1 starts with the staff concealed down by your right leg.
So it's like a hidden weapon.
Yep. And then if the attacker throws a punch, you smash their striking arm with the staff, grab their other hand to control them, smash their knees to bring them down, and then finish with a head strike.
Wow, that's a pretty brutal sequence.
It is, but it's effective. And it's all about using the staff to block, control, and then disable your attacker.
Right. It's not just about hitting them. It's about controlling the situation.
Exactly. Now, technique 2 also starts with the staff concealed.
Okay, same setup.
This time, you smash the attacker's elbow, come around and hit their kidneys, and then finish with a neck strike.
So again, you're targeting multiple areas to quickly incapacitate them.
Yep. Technique 3 starts with the staff concealed and you standing a little to the left of the attacker.
Okay, so a slightly different starting position.
This one involves blocking and grabbing their wrist with your left hand and then jabbing the end of the staff into their eyes.
Ouch, straight to the eyes.
Not pretty, but effective. Technique 4 starts with the staff concealed down by your right side.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here.
Right, so the attacker comes at you trying to grab you, and you thrust the staff into their solar plexus, smash it across their face, then do a snap kick to the groin, and finish with a throat or neck strike.
Geez, that's intense.
It's a lot of moves packed into a really short amount of time.
It's like a whirlwind of pain.
Pretty much. Now, technique 5 is a little different. You start with the staff in your left hand tucked under your arm.
So it's not concealed this time.
Right. The attacker comes at you, and you thrust the staff into their throat, flip it up to hit their face, smash their knee, and then hit their neck as they're falling down.
So this one's more about using the staff's length and your movement to create openings.
Exactly. Technique 6 is specifically for when someone grabs you from behind, and you have the staff down by your right side.
That's a tricky situation.
It is, but the solution is pretty simple.
Hmm.
You just flip the staff up and over your head, smacking them in the head.
Oh, I like that. Nice and direct.
Right. Technique 7 also deals with a rear grab, but this time you have the staff in your left hand.
Okay, another variation.
You step to your left, creating some space, and then thrust the staff backwards into their stomach, finishing with a back kick to the groin.
Smart move.
Mm.
Create distance and then attack.
And finally, technique 8 is called a throw and break.
Ooh, that sounds serious.
It is. So the attacker comes at you, and you smash the staff into their elbow, then grab their arm with the staff and pull it up hard as you throw your body back, which basically breaks their arm.
Wow, that's next level.
Yeah, it's not something you'd use lightly. Okay, so that covers how to use the staff against an unarmed opponent. Now let's talk about what to do if you're facing someone who also has a staff.
This is where it gets interesting. Staff on staff combat.
Exactly. Now, specifically, Dr. Gambordella talks about facing someone with a bow staff, which is longer than a regular staff.
So you're at a disadvantage in terms of reach.
Right. He gives two main tactics for dealing with this.
Let's hear them.
In the first one, your opponent attacks with the bow staff, and you're holding your staff out in front of you with both hands. You bring your staff up to block the bow, then immediately strike the back of their head, and finally smash their knee.
So block, counter, counter.
Yeah, it's all about speed and aggression. The second tactic involves holding your staff behind you as they attack with the bow. You swing your staff across to knock the bow away from your body and then deliver a side kick to their head.
Nice. Using a kick to bridge the distance.
Exactly. Okay, now let's switch to defending yourself against a staff attack.
So we're on the receiving end now.
Yep. Dr. Gambordella outlines a few different defenses for specific attacks.
Makes sense. You need different strategies for different situations.
Right. So let's say someone comes at you with an overhead strike.
Coming right down on your head.
Yeah, that's a scary one. The defense here is to use a rising block, aiming for their wrist to control the staff, then lock their arms, take them down to the ground, break their arm, and finish with a strike to their throat using their own staff.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
It's brutal, but it gets the job done. Then there's the defense against a stomach jab.
So a thrust to the gut.
Yep. You use an X block to defend, then do a wrist lock to control their staff hand, take them down, and then hit the back of their head with their own staff.
So again, we're seeing a lot of disarming and then using their weapon against them.
Definitely. Then there's the defense against a side smash.
A horizontal swing aimed at your body.
Right. You block the strike with both hands, grab their head, do a hip throw, and then stomp on their throat.
Jeez, that's another devastating sequence.
And finally, there's the defense against a backhand face smash.
So they're trying to hit you in the face with a backhand swing?
Yep. You block with both hands, keeping hold of their wrist, drop down to one knee, and then basically throw them over your leg, finishing with a face smash using their own staff.
It's amazing how many of these techniques end up with you using the attacker's weapon against them.
It's a common theme, for sure. Now, get this. Dr. Gambordella even shows how to use kicks to block staff attacks.
Kicks? That's interesting.
I know, right? So for a stomach jab, you sidestep and thrust a side kick into their groin or ribs.
So you're not even trying to block the staff. You're just going straight for a counterattack.
Exactly. And for a side smash, you block with a crescent kick and then snap that same leg up into their face or throat.
A 2-for-1 kick combo.
Yep, it's all about speed and fluidity. And then, if they attack your head, you block with a high front snap kick and then follow up with a groin kick.
So basically, kicks can be used both defensively and offensively.
Absolutely. And he even has a couple of ways to escape and counter if someone's choking you from behind with a staff.
That's a scary thought.
It is. One option is to grab the staff, smash your elbow down into their stomach, and then kick them. The other option is to hold the staff, pull down to relieve the pressure, throw them over your head, and then stomp on them.
Both sound pretty effective and probably painful.
Definitely. And then there's this really advanced technique for stopping a low leg strike with a staff. It involves a jumping spin kick.
A jumping spin kick, that sounds complicated.
It is. You jump straight up, turn in the air, and then come down with your heel hitting them in the face. But Dr. Gambordella makes it clear that this is not something to try without a lot of practice.
Yeah, you could really hurt yourself if you mess that one up.
For sure. Okay, and finally, we need to talk about kata.
Ah, yes, the forms.
So kata are these set sequences of movements that you practice on your own.
Like shadow boxing, but with a staff.
Exactly. And the book shows these kata with diagrams, so you can see the stances and the movements.
Visual aids are so helpful.
They really are. The important thing to understand about kata is that they're crucial for developing your muscle memory, improving your coordination, and really understanding how the different staff techniques flow together.
Like a moving meditation.
I like that, a moving meditation with a weapon. All right, so there you have it. That's our deep dive into mastering the staff.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We talked about holding the staff, blocking, striking, defending against unarmed opponents, defending against staff attacks, using kicks to block, and even kata.
It's amazing how much depth there is to using a simple staff.
It really is. And I think that brings us to our final thought for today.
What's that?
Well, we've seen how versatile the staff is and how Dr. Gambardella really focuses on teaching practical, effective techniques.
Yeah, no fluff, just straight up combat techniques.
Right. So what part of all this resonated with you the most? Did any of these techniques really stand out? And what do you think you might want to explore further on your own? We talked about leverage, body mechanics, target selection. There's a lot to think about here.
It's really about taking this knowledge and making it your own, you know? Seeing how it fits into your own understanding of self-defense or martial arts.
Exactly. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.